I know this feeling. Can you imagine what it's like being in a group with Beyonce? I would just torture myself in my head like, well, I can't wear this dress because they're gonna say it's like B, or I can't have a song like that because it sounds too much like B.
As everyone knows, Kelly Rowland has endured a lot over the years, including unceasing comparisons to Beyoncé. But has Bey actually made enough of an effort to deter people from drawing too many parallels? Because it appears from where some people are sitting that false friends don't care if it makes Beyoncé look bad. Honey, could it be that Kelly feels the same way? That Beyoncé is a fictitious pal? That's precisely the topic we'll be discussing. So, darlings, take a seat. I understand, child, that despite Kelly's self-made success, a Grammy Award-winning musician, a New York Times best-selling author with numerous platinum albums, film honors, producing credentials, to name a few, that this is a very regrettable situation. Beyoncé and Destiny's Child are frequently brought up in interviews. For example, during her morning appearance on Ebro with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg, the host insisted repeatedly that Kelly was the second person.
And to be standing next to the brightest light on planet Earth. Like, you think Big Boy from Outkast has it tough being next to Andre. You're with Beyonce, and not only did you not like fight it, it seems like you really loved the position that you were in and took it seriously.
However, do you know how Kelly reacted to constantly trailing behind Beyoncé and having to stand next to the world's brightest dazzling star? This is the issue. Light is drawn to other light. I am luminosity. I am therefore a stunning brown brilliant light. Thus, in my opinion, nobody's light diminishes another's. I believe that it reveals how self-deluded other people are of themselves when they begin to compare you. I therefore no longer tolerate it when someone tries to dim my light for them. I love B. She is a light. I know that. But I also know that I am a light. Really, that could have been the end of the conversation. But Kelly was having none of it when the host reiterated his comments regarding her position in Destiny's Child. My sister has made positions and knocked on doors, she said, for the many women who resemble her and who have a darker complexion than she does, but especially for Black women, and for placing Black women in other contexts, for which we are thankful. However, that was also done for her by someone else, and for us by another group, and for other dark females, myself. Thus, rather of comparing, it's a cycle and a place where we can all open doors for one another. Excellently said. You know, Kelly was questioned about Beyoncé during her appearance on B103 Atlanta just a few months ago. She exclaimed, "Y'all, I'm done for good." During her discussion of her Netflix thriller, Mia Kappa, Kelly was asked about Beyoncé's announcement of Act 2 and whether Act 3 would feature a Destiny's Child reunion record by host Big Tigger.
This is about the whole new couple of songs, and it's my understanding that Renaissance 2 may or may not be country based, and then there's a rumor going around that Renaissance 3 may be either rock based or a DC reunion.
That is her business to talk about.
Kelly was even more irritated. Honey, when host Jazzy McBee interjected to clarify the purpose of their question and assured her that it will always come up regarding Destiny's Child.
And I know that you all are tired of answering those questions, but fans like me for the DC Destiny's Child reunion, and when y'all took that picture, it got me like really excited in my feelings. I'm like, okay, is this really going to happen? We still gotta ask every time we see either you. We never see Remy. Come on.
Kelly said to the child, "Ask them. I'm delighted to talk about mea culpa since that's why I'm here." Even though she undoubtedly held her footing in that situation, she has nevertheless been impacted by the comparison. In fact, Kelly once talked candidly about being compared to Beyoncé on an episode of The Voice Australia in 2020, following a contestant's admission that he had trouble defining himself, and she said she totally gets it.
I would be lying if I said, no, it's never bothered me. That's bull. There was a whole decade, if I'm being completely honest, decade that it was like the elephant in the room, but the thing that was constantly beyond my shoulder.
These are just a few of the times, baby, that Kelly has been compelled to bring up Beyoncé or has been questioned about her during interviews, because we would most likely require a full day if we begin to go through each question she posed. At this point, it must be really wearing her out. Nevertheless, as I mentioned earlier, some claim that Kelly has been questioned about Beyoncé much too often and that Bey hasn't done enough to deter it. And as a result, she is still regarded as a phony friend by those who advise dating. People have even pointed out that Bey seemed to find the similarities amusing and motivating, even going back to the Destiny's Child days. Remember, for example, the long-forgotten Farrah Franklin from Destiny's Child, who allegedly hinted that Beyoncé's father, Matthew Knowles, attempted to exploit her.
My manager happened to be Beyonce's father. Matthew knows he propositioned me to invite me over to the hotel to meet and speak with him.
Thus, Farrah said in a Wendy Williams episode that the other members of Destiny's Child needed to get tan in order to be noticeably darker than Beyoncé. They witnessed it, and she gave her consent. Furthermore, there were ex-band members who brought up their abuse, such as LaToya Luckett and Latavia Robertson, who thoroughly discredited Matthew in a lawsuit by pointing out his blatant preference for Michelle Williams. Also stated in 2017 that she was having trouble returning to her former self after Washington, D.C. During the interview, she disclosed that she struggled with depression during her time in the band and told her management about it, who didn't respond in the best way. She claimed that our manager at the time, bless his heart, was informed when I told him about it and said, "You guys just signed a multi-million-dollar deal and you were about to go on tour. What is the reason for your depression?" I then thought, oh, perhaps I'm just tired. Naturally, Beyoncé's management's treatment of the other band members is not our fault. However, a lot of people take issue with the fact that she witnessed it all and did not defend any of them, even Kelly, who spent her entire childhood living in her house. And I am aware that Kelly was going through a very difficult period since, according to Latavia, Matthew was blunt when asked about his managerial style. And as a young girl, it might be difficult to take that type of criticism. We'd make an effort not to let it break us. However, Kelly was the more delicate one. On occasion, she would cry in her chamber, in addition to the claim that Beyoncé hasn't done much to support her fellow musicians. There have also been allegations that Kelly's friendship with Beyoncé has contributed to her lack of success. Even though Kelly bears the majority of the blame for the outcome of her career, some claim that Beyoncé was in a position to assist her as well. She stepped away from her for a few years, but she was her dear friend and sister during a period when Kelly was having a lot of trouble in her work. Fans feel that she could have given Kelly a bone, even though they understand that B was under no obligation and that everyone needs to clear their own slates. These are just a few of the things, honey, that lead some individuals to believe that Beyoncé is a real phony friend. Furthermore, Beyoncé is a fiercely competitive and ambitious person who will stop at nothing to maintain her position of dominance and destroy her rivals. You have to judge for yourself, though, whether she would do it to Kelly